We have Big E, we have Andreas Hale in studio. And Andreas, we've been talking about this project for a while. And I know that this is something that you've been very, very passionate about. And I know for you too, Big E. And first of all, how are you feeling?
Good.
Yeah?
Really good. Thank you very much for asking, Dave. So thankfully, no headaches, no issues, no function issues. I feel great. Yeah, I feel like I'm 100%, honestly.
You look great.
Thank you kindly.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You look good. You're doing the whole media stuff. How's that working out?
It's been good. Yeah, today's day number 2 for our short film, Bridges, written and directed by my man, Johnny Davenport. All the New Day gear. By the way, this man is so multifaceted. All the gear that you've seen the New Day in since the inception, besides the first set of gear, which we hate. Everything else, he designed it, but he also wrote and directed our short film. It's amazing. But yeah, that's why we're here.
And that is this Mr. Davenport right here?
That is Mr. Davenport off in the cut, yes.
All right, so we're going to have to get Mr. Davenport on microphone before this is all said and done because I have some questions for him. And I know that this is being screened right now, Urban World Film Festival. It's going on right now.
Yes, sir.
So, Andreas, what's that like for you? First of all, a project you've been working on for a while. Your heart and your soul is in this project. How does it feel to finally come to fruition?
It doesn't feel real,
Okay.
right? You know, we conceptualized this during the pandemic with the passing of George Floyd. We were all stuck at home. We were trying to figure out how do we keep the conversation about race in America going on a surface level where we can touch like children. And we came up with a cartoon. You remember Schoolhouse Rock?
Yeah.
You remember learning about how a bill was made through music?
That's it.
We're teaching the story of Ruby Bridges through music, through hip hop and science fiction. And when we conceptualized this, we launched a Kickstarter, raised over $130,000. We were surprised. But even then, we still had to make it. Now that we've made it and we've got a chance to see it and we can't wait to unleash this thing on the world, we're overwhelmed with joy and relief because we didn't know what the finish line looked like. Because remember, we started this thing, we were at home, like doing everything through a Zoom. We didn't know how people were going to eventually see it. Now we're in a place where people can come to the theater and sit together and experience this as a unit, as a family. It's incredible.
And it centers around Maya, correct?
Yes,
the character Maya.
The main character is Maya, but the focus is Ruby Bridges, who integrated, was the first young black girl who integrated school in 1960, November 14th. It's going to be almost 25 years, 23 years since then on November 14th. So that'll be the anniversary. Ruby Bridges is still alive, which a lot of people do not know. But we wanted to tell her story, and not in a way like, when we talk about like race and integration and racism and discrimination in America, as adults, we've kind of made up our mind on how we feel about these issues. But as children, we try to tap into that emotional element of fear and bravery and overcoming odds and being an outcast. We all experience that regardless of our race, gender, or culture. So we wanted to use this vehicle as something that everybody can relate to in a story that still exists today, especially at a time where we're dealing with strife in this country. You know, we had a president that wasn't great, right? That kind of tapped into all that. And we want to make people understand that these stories still exist and these people are still here with us. And we want to make it fun.
Yeah. And I felt like we were making strides, and it just feels like, you know, our country is kind of fractured right now. And I think only through education and understanding people's ideals and understanding who people are and accepting people, that's the only way you're going to move forward and you're going to be able to make some progress. Because, you know, Tommy, I know for you and I, you know, we grew up when we were going to school in the 70s and 80s. There wasn't much black history in our history books at all. You know, like it's not something I have to say I was pretty ignorant about until I met people of that race and of that culture, because I really didn't know that culture at all because it wasn't something that was taught to me. So I feel like this is a great way, especially if it's making connection with people, where then people are going to understand that. And that's really a huge step forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think too, like, we're talking about something that can feel heavy. It's obviously important, but I think the real focus with our film is we made sure to make it fun and engaging. And when you watch it, like, we're still covering her story in a very meaningful way. We're not glossing over that, but that's what we want to encourage people. I always think of the metaphor that we always use is when I was a kid, you know, if I had medicine or vitamins that I was supposed to take, oftentimes my parents would crush them up and they'd put in the applesauce, and then you mix it around the applesauce, you eat the applesauce, and it's delicious, and you don't even really understand that you're taking these vitamins and minerals. And that's how we're approaching this short film. We have a 9-foot tall robot in this futuristic museum. The animation is beautiful. Shout shout out to Something's Awry, which is the studio that we used. Their work is gorgeous. All the character design from my man Johnny Davenport is incredible. So it's beautiful, it's fun, it's engaging. But at the end of the day, you walk away with this jingle, this incredible story written by Rhapsody, who just, the song she gave us is incredible. Eric the Architect from Flatbush Zombies produced the beat. But that's the thing. You'll walk away enjoying the short film, beautiful animation, but you learn this story about Ruby Bridges.
Man, there's a lot to take in. You summed it up great, because I'm just a bill. I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. I remember all that jingle. Dave, when you said something, it's keeping the conversation, but as well as the biggest thing here is for youth. I'll tell you guys straight up, I lived in a wonderful neighborhood growing up. They were putting low-income housing kind of down the block from where, and there was legit, I remembered I was between 5 and 7, a KK rally coming up my block, burning crosses. They broke our car back windshield because they were putting low-income houses in Yonkers, New York. And if that happened today, the outrage, but I remember seeing like fire and all that stuff, didn't understand it. And this was in my neighborhood. And it was a massive deal. Wasn't a massive deal globally like it would if it was today. I didn't understand it back then. I would understand it now if I had something like, again, I'm just a bill. I'm only a bill. I'm sitting here on Capitol Hill. Those things sit with you as a kid that you could remember forever. Yeah. So I'm glad you guys are doing something like this, because sadly stuff like this still happens today.
For sure. One of the things that I think of often is this line, what isn't revealed can't be healed. And I think too often we are just so unwilling to have these conversations about race, about racism in this country. And I think too often it devolves into finger pointing. And, when you feel like you're being hurled, I'm not racist, you shut down. And I think one of the things that we're trying to do with our film is it's so warm and engaging, and it really is about bringing people together, is that we can have hopefully a common ground that's not about finger pointing. It's not about assigning blame to, like, I understand that you weren't there in 1960, you weren't there, but it's hopefully that's what we're trying to do with our short film, is really just trying to engage people and not to immediately put up our defenses and say, I'm on this side and you're on that side, but to really engage with the story. It's just a brave 6-year-old little girl who was trying to go to school, and all these horrible things were being hurled at her. People said terrible things. There was a little black doll in this coffin, so she was faced with all these terrible things, but really it's a story about bravery. It's a story about Barbara Henry, who is still with us here today, who, when all the parents at that school pulled their children out, when all the teachers at William Frantz in New Orleans in 1960, when all the teachers refused to teach Ruby Bridges, there was one woman, Barbara Henry, who stood up and said, I'm going to teach this little girl. So she was in that class for the entire school year. It was just her and Ruby, and she stood up and did the right thing. And for people who don't understand, like, why does this story mean anything to me? I haven't gone through these things. You can learn the story of what it's like to see that something wrong is going on, to see that someone is being persecuted, pushed aside, whatever it is, and knowing this is wrong, I'm going to do the right thing.
Yeah, and I think even though the circumstances may be different, I think everybody at some point in their life has felt that. It felt isolated, or felt that, like, hey, I've been wronged, and this is the right way, and why aren't people thinking it? I think anybody can relate to that. So I'm glad that there is this outlet for people to connect to, because that's how you're ultimately going to learn about it. So, Andreas, talk about this project and now where it's at. How can people be a part of it? How can people see it? How can people connect with it?
Well, we're having the world premiere at the Urban World Film Festival here in New York at the AMC Theater. So if you're in town, you happen to be in New York, you can still purchase tickets. We sold out our first run, so we had to move to a bigger theater, which is great. We're also one of the spotlights of the festival, films like American Fiction, which we saw last night with Jeffrey Wright, which is absolutely amazing. We're a part of that block. We're having the spotlight shown on us. We still have plans to release it sometime next year. We can't give an exact date yet. But everything is done, and to be part of it, you can just continue supporting us. Follow Our Heroes Rock on social media. Follow myself, Ettore, Big E. It's weird. I can't call you Big E anymore. You're my friend.
I know.
It's strange.
It's weird.
And Jonathan Davenport, the writer-director, Davenport, you can follow us to support everything we do. One thing I also want to talk about is the foundation of this was called Our Heroes Rock. And the reason why we called it Our Heroes instead of like Black Heroes is we are tired of people separating American history and Black history. It's just history. It's our history. So these are our heroes, and they shouldn't just be me and the Taurus heroes or me and Giants heroes or Dave, me and your heroes. It should be everybody's heroes.
Yeah.
So you just want it's about acceptance. It's about bravery. It's about understanding. Because for a lot of us, me growing up, I was raised by an old Italian white woman. That's my grandmother. And I didn't learn that I was Black and I was different until somebody else told me, right? And that happens at a very early age. And Ruby Bridges didn't learn that she was different until somebody told her, you're different and you don't belong. We want to attack all this stuff at the root. So everybody feels together at an early age, because misunderstanding leads to why people feel like outcasts. So yeah, back to the original question, you can support us, follow us on social media. We will continue to update everybody on what we're doing on a wider release. Hopefully sooner than later, you guys will get to hear the song that Rhapsody put together, because it's incredible, the Grammy-nominated artist. But we're just going to keep pushing, and we're hopeful that this weekend that we're sharing our baby with the world after 3 years. Imagine that, having a baby and you don't show anybody for 3 years.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy. Now we get a chance to show everybody, and we're truly excited for this moment.
Now, for you, Big E, and you being out, because I know the world of the WWE moves so fast, and you probably have zero time. That's got to be just crazy for you to, everything just stops.
Yeah.
And now did that help in putting this back on the road again and having this push forward?
Yeah, I mean, it was moving forward regardless, and that's the great thing about having great partners in Johnny and in Dre is knowing, But I think for me, despite having a neck injury is not something that I would suggest for anyone. I'm not going to say that's something I was excited about, but I think trying to find the silver lining. I think the great thing is I've loved being a part of this process, and the great thing is you're doing something you believe in with your two extremely talented friends, and the joy of making this thing has been insurmountable. It's just we've had so much fun doing this, and it's been a real labor of love. So I've loved just being a part of this. And like you said, it's difficult when you're on the road all the time, when you're doing 4 to 5 shows a week, especially like when I had the title, I was never home, and it's just very hard to be involved. But now I'm on all the Zoom meetings, I'm on all the emails, just really being involved with the creative process too. And I never had a desire to be a filmmaker or to be a producer or any of those things, but I just have a really, really amazing team and these two gentlemen with me, and we're just extremely proud of what we made. Like if it came out and like it's not the best, I don't know if we'd be doing all the media rounds and whatnot, but I am so proud to put my name on this thing. We believe in it that much. We really do.
I think it's really cool because there's been a mad push. I would say they're trying to change history, and people are trying to erase history. And then the fact that with this, you guys are telling real history. Bad things do happen in the world, and you can't erase it, but the best is you can learn from it. And is that a key kind of like goal, just to continue going forward, like after this? Because once it drops, what's the end goal after that? More conversation going, or more, movies, more characters, more people?
Yeah, I mean, we've definitely talked about that. There's so many stories. Johnny and I recently we were talking about, there's a man named Lonnie Johnson. Like, we should all know this man's name. So we have stories like Ruby Bridges, steeped in trauma, difficult stories, and Lonnie Johnson is just the man who invented the Super Soaker and the Nerf dart guns. And he went to NASA, and to know, there were so many things. As a kid, you're told oftentimes, as a young Black kid, you can be an entertainer or an athlete. And look, that is the route that I went. But when you learn the story of Alani, this man served in the Air Force. He worked on the NASA jet propulsion team. He did all these incredible things. And then he had this idea for this really cool toy. Like, I grew up in the 90s. We all love Super Soakers, So it's just, I want more kids who look like me to know that there are so many different paths, whether it's literature, whether it's politics. For people who look like us, there's so many things you can do. Letting young kids know the world is your oyster. You don't have to be confined to this little box. And there are so many stories that we come across. In fact, we started making a list, and within a couple hours, I was at over 100 of these unsung heroes. in our history that we just don't talk about enough from all different walks of life. So, and I think the great thing too is we always think, I think hip hop is often like the language of the culture. And I think it's such a great way to learn a story. Like you said, like, I remember backstage, so this all started from wrestling gear. Post George Floyd, I went to Johnny and like we decided, what can we do? So we, in the style of at the time, we decided something in the style of Schoolhouse Rock with all these black historical figures all over. And I remember being backstage and we had someone who was in her mid-20s and another like guy backstage in the crew who was in his mid-50s, and they both remembered the jingle from Schoolhouse Rock about how a bill becomes a law. And that's how powerful like that music and rhyme and the way it just burrows into your head, and you have this information just through a song that's really catchy. So we think it's just such a great way to be a teaching tool through hip hop, to make these songs fun. Look, you don't want to sit down for boring, heavy, pedantic history. But when you engage kids, when you have hip hop, when you have animation, and you have a great story, I think you can really, really capture people. So, yeah, that's our hope, is just to tell more of these stories.
Can we get this in schools? Can we get this, educational programs? Because I feel like, in the public, there's always going to be those walls. There's always going to be those barriers. But I feel like if the goal is, and obviously everybody has this goal in mind of education and moving forward, like, I wonder if there's any way that this could be a part of educational systems and in schools where this could be shown.
Dave, that's the end game, right? Is to have this in schools and having coloring books and having flashcards and having alphabet. Like, this is what we want to do. Like, this is just the foundational element, because we want this to be part of kids' curriculum. We want this to be normal. We don't want this to feel abnormal. We don't want this to feel something where people's like, oh, I don't want to learn that. Because when you become an adult, you become set in your ways, and you say, well, maybe I don't want to learn about that. But if it's part of your education process as a child, it's ingrained in you at an early age. So the Ruby Bridges story is not like this outlandish thing that people are like, she's still alive, or who is she? Now it's here. And this is what we like to do with all of these heroes. So that is the end game. Like, this is some cartoon. We'd love for it to be shown in schools. We'd love for third graders to see this and to come home singing the songs to their parents, and they wanted to have more. So this is just the beginning of something, and it's just a start. I do want Johnny here, because no, Johnny, you have to. Jonathan Davenport is here. He's acting shy because all three of us always do act shy. But Johnny, you have to come over here because he's the heart and soul of this. Like, I handled the music. E is obviously the big voice of Etor, and he's got the big personality. But the heart and soul of this, our North Star, has been Jonathan Davenport from the beginning. So, Johnny, come over here, man.
Come on, Jonathan Davenport. Get your flowers here a little bit.
Yeah, you better accept them. You better take those flowers.
First of all, Jonathan, thank you for joining the show. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And, congratulations. And I know this is the foundation of something that's going to be much, much bigger, but, you should be very proud of what you've been able to accomplish. And now it's here. So how does it feel?
It feels good. But I will say that I'm amazingly proud of what we've made. It has far surpassed our expectations and our hopes and our aspirations, but it's the result of a collaboration from an amazingly talented team. Like, you're a creator. It's never one person. It's a team. It's a team effort.
No, it was just me when it came to this. But
that was the exception.
Yeah.
They told me to say that.
I get what you're saying, though. Yeah. But seriously, no, of course. You always need a team. You have to have people around you that believe in you.
Yeah.
And you have to have people that know that this is something, like you said, you're not putting your name on something at this point in your life and in your career. You're not putting your name on something that you don't believe in.
Right.
So yes, you do need that support team, and you have that. And now I think this could be bigger. I think we can go many different places that you probably never even imagined.
We hope so. Just piggybacking off of what Dre said, the end game is to get this in front of as many people as possible. I'm just going to piggyback for the rest of the time here. We are absolutely not interested in preaching to the choir. We want to preach to people who don't go to church. Mm-hmm. That's the whole point. That's why we wrapped this story of Ruby Bridges inside a narrative that's like the applesauce, that's very accessible for tweens, for kids, for adults. I don't know if you're a parent, but anything your kids are watching, you're watching. And we don't want people to be driven crazy. We want them to like it just as much as we do. This short, I think, accomplishes that, and we're really pleased with the results.
Were you were you a gear maker?
I was a gear designer. Yeah, I guess still technically am. Yeah, I worked with a lot of dudes from WWE, a couple of AEWs. When E was the champ and he did a solo run, we did a lot of crazy stuff. We did the Seinfeld themed gear. It was really fun.
Yeah, and you do DIY's gear.
That's
right
correct.
now. That's you. You still do Bailey's gear, Ricochet's gear. Yeah. Quit being humble.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Speaking of wrestling, Big E, we got to ask you, like, when you say you're feeling better, any chance of return here?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had more information for you. So right now, there's just really no timeline. I've been to a few different doctors, have looked over my scans and whatnot, and thankfully, I'm not, like I said, I don't have any issues right now. I feel great. I feel 100%. But, I broke my C1 in 2 places. It's called a Jefferson fracture, and because of the nature of the fracture, it just takes longer to heal. Initially, they told me 3 months, so I thought, 3 months and I'll be back to wrestling. But things ended up being more complex. And look, it's just, there are chances I might take with like a broken forearm, a broken finger. I've had ACLs before. But, I started wrestling when I was 23. And at the time, honestly, I would have, it's like if I die in the ring doing what I love, so be it. But, when I'm 37 now and you see life differently and you have other things to think about. And so I'm just trying to make the best decision for myself and for my health moving forward. And so I don't have any answers, but I'm just really thankful. And again, I got to shout out to everyone who reached out, who supported me. It could have been a really difficult time for me mentally, but it honestly wasn't, because I had so much love and support from people within WWE, from people I'd shared rings with, from people backstage, from fans, just the constant text. People like really showed me that they cared. Oftentimes I think with injuries, the physical part can be difficult, but the mental part can really be the hardest. And, for anyone in the business right now going through, we have so many guys, especially this last year or so, who've had to deal with fusions. And, these are things you got to, like, you get one body, and this is the body you take the rest of your life. So, it's just knowing that you have the support from your family, from your friends, from fans, really makes it easier. It really lightens that load. So I truly, truly am so thankful for everyone who has asked. I wish I had better information for you. I wish I had more information, but y'all have really helped to keep me afloat with all the support and love. So thank you for that.
That's awesome.
What do you miss? Go ahead, Tommy,
no,
please.
I was just going to say, you feel forgotten. I remember I couldn't walk. I was 28 years old because I broke my neck, broke my back, didn't know I broke my neck. And I was like, my career's over, and like I'm doing nothing. Like nobody's calling you, or I'm losing. I forget about I lost my spot. What am I going to do to make a living? All these things could go through your head, but then it's cool that you have that support system, and you realize, what, at the end of the day, there's also other things outside. I mean, I remember talking to you. I was like, dude, you need to become an analyst for college football. You're great. And I don't really know you, but I was just like, I felt the urge to reach out to you because I've been there, but also like, hey, there's other things outside of wrestling.
No, for sure. And look, like I would say, everything in my life that's good for the most part is pretty much owed to wrestling, man. All the incredible people I've met, all the friends I've met, man, it really is. Look, the trope of this being a big family can be a bit beaten to death, but man, you really do make brothers for life, man. It's as much as, look, Kofi and Woods, the three of us, I know we go ad nauseum on about our brotherhood and whatnot, but it's real. And even beyond that, man, there's so many people, you just spend so much time around each other. You know what it's like, Tommy, being on the road. And so that's what I'm really thankful for, man. I'm really thankful for the wrestling community, for the fans. Like, I get things online can be toxic, but really, like, the wrestling fandom showed me so much love and support and continues to. And like you said, man, not feeling like you're alone, not feeling like you're just cast off to the side has really helped me tremendously. So I'm really, really grateful for that.
Do you find it?
I appreciate that. Thank you, man.
Do you find it difficult to watch? Like, now that you're apart from it?
No. Honestly, like, I've been able to kind of just sit back and put on my fan hat.
Can you believe that Cody didn't beat Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 39?
Look, let's not dive back into that. Let's not dive into that. No, man. It's been cool to when you're on this, the hamster wheel. It's hard not to always think about your spot and how you fit in and how to get to that next level and think about yourself. But being on the shelf a bit has kind of allowed me to just sit back and watch the product as a fan. And that's been the cool thing, is just seeing, it's wild how quickly the turnover in the locker room happens. Like you think you're the young guy, and then it feels like in the blink of an eye, you look around and it's all new cats. You feel like the old guy in the locker room. But it's been nice. I was at NXT a few months ago, and being backstage, got to take a couple pics with Carmelo, and I'm such a fan of his work and what he's doing, and seeing this next crop. And the cool thing too is now, while I was out with injury, I've been helping with some of the scouting stuff, with the NIL stuff, doing tryouts. And so now, like, to me, if you really love the business, you want to make sure that it's in good hands 10 years from now, 20 years from now. So some of us had bad OGs. We had OGs that were like, nah, like, let me keep you out. Let me make it hard for you to grow and learn. And I think one of the great things, I think a lot of guys now understand, no, like, if you really love this business, you have to help the next guys up. So I really learned, like, and Kofi and Woods do an incredible job with that. Seeing them go down to NXT and help so many guys and do their best to really elevate guys and spotlight guys who are super talented, who just didn't have the spotlight they needed, is really cool to see. So that's what I like now, is I can sit back and look at the amount of talent across the board. Before I was hurt, like Rhea Ripley, I was thought, like, man, she should be doing more. And look at her now. Look at her killing it. So it's been really cool to sit back and just see where the business is right now.
Carmelo Hayes seems like the future, huh?
I think so, man. I really do, man. He's young, super athletic, man. Braun Breaker as well. Braun's another dude who I just think is immense, and a humble dude. Like, being like, with his lineage, with how, played in the NFL a bit and all the things he's done. And we've had, like, we did the Oklahoma Spring game because he's helping out with recruiting. We were both there together and talking to him. And I feel like he has the right mindset for wanting to get better and wanting to learn from others too. So when you're around guys like that who are young and hungry and want to learn and aren't arrogant, it's really cool to see.
Well, I want to appreciate all of you coming in today. I know this is a busy day for you. Anything else that we can do here on SiriusXM or Busted Open? You have anything to promote, you're always welcome to come on the show. And Andreas obviously is part of the family, but thank you, all three of you, for coming on today. Really appreciate it. Again, it's www.ourheroesrock.org for anybody that wants to get involved.
One last thing. Beautiful things come out of pro wrestling. Like, this is a pro wrestling. It's not a pro wrestling project, but the three of us are a wrestling family. And obviously I'm part of the family here as well. So people that say, like, wrestling is like, oh, it's in this silo and nobody loves it. Look what we made out of the love of wrestling. Like, Our Heroes Rock was birthed out of our love of wrestling. It's foundational storytelling at the end of the day. So thank you, Dave. And I love being here. I'm on the other side of the mic. This is weird to me. Like, I'm getting interviewed. I'm used to talking to other people.
I mean, dude, you're amazing at what you do. And I'm so glad that you're a part of this project. I'm so glad that you're a part of our family. So good luck with everything.
Thank you, man. Thank you.